What's up, everyone? Pittsburgh White Shorts coming at you with yet another deck tech. Today, I'm going to be running through PIXAR Bar Choice. I'm going to do a quick one because of the holiday this week. Just want to run through something I've been playing for PIXAR that I thought was pretty good. It's something that was posted around. I believe Rentaro started with something like this, but something our play group's been talking about, and I've been seeing a decent amount of success with. So I'm just going to jump right into it here. We are going to be playing Bar Choice, focusing on the Wally package, because Wally is Action Bastard, and Action Bastard is stupid. So basically, the idea of this deck is we are going to slam Wally into our opponent's face over and over and over again until we play Woody and Buzz, and then our opponent dies. Pretty simple, giant club kind of strategy, but PIXAR has some really good cards to make sure you can do this every single game. So let's jump into them. List is pretty simple, but we're going to run through it card by card. We got the Dory Ricky here. It is on play or on death. You may pay one, collect the top card of your deck, and salvage any character, not restricted by level because it is salvage Ricky. And of course, you get the on play and on death. This is like the new kind of power creep where cards have both on play and on death effects, effectively giving them free effects with, you know, the 2-line cost, so they still have reasonable power levels and stuff like that. Pretty insane power creep, but I digress. Also has the on attack, look at up to 2, choose your trigger, put it back, which is really nice with Bar. If we don't have our Bar yet, you know, it digs us an extra trigger in the early game to hopefully get into our Bar for a level 1 combo. This card combos really well with another card, and I'm actually going to go into the interaction once I get through the level 0, so we'll talk about that then. We are playing 3 of the Lightning McQueen from the trial deck. This is the 2 or less stock 3500 drop search any PIXAR character. Without this card, PIXAR would really struggle to actually have like a beater unless you played, I believe it's a Woody that like can marker cards, stuff like that. Without either of those cards, you really don't have anything to like kind of challenge power-wise at 0, so we're going to play a full 3 copies of this. It's also good red fix for a splash that we're going to go into our top end. Wally Brainstorm. The Wally Brainstorm is broken. It has 2 effects. It's a self-rest salvage Brainstorm, as well as being an act, 10 to card in your hand to stock. Because we're going to have cards bouncing back to our hand in this deck, we possibly go overhand as we continue to loop cards, loop our level 1 combo, having the ability on turns where we don't want to touch our deck, we don't want to touch our deck state, to take a card in our hand, put it into our stock, or even do nutty things like, you know, Ricky on our first turn, stupid stuff like that. If we have the hand to go off, it's not going to hurt us. We can crazy stuff. Having an effect like this stapled to a card that sits on your board is disgusting. And this card's really, really good. We got the Onward Gang. I don't know the names of these characters, and I actually had to look up what this is because this is past my time in terms of PIXAR. So on play, choose one of your opponent's characters until the end of their turn. They can't move, so it's kind of like the anti-standby effect or anti-run effect if your opponent has a runner. Again, our cards are pretty low power outside of the Lightning McQueen, so if your opponent has a center runner and you want to get those 2 directs, because we're an aggressive deck, you're going to lock down their center runner and get 2 directs if your opponent goes first. Kind of nice. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you can sack one of your other characters to run this to the back row. So it's a back row runner, and then on the following turn, it has this act, or you can just use this raw later in the game. Pay 1, sack this, check up to 4, add a level 1 or higher card. Level 1 or higher card in this deck is very important because we have to resolve an event for our Wallies to be online, and the fact this can add this, especially in the early game, as well as there being a really cool play with the Dory that I'll get into. This is invaluable as terms of tech, as well as being a plusing. 2 of the Mater, also from the TD. On play, this gets 1500 power, so it's 2k, and it's a Rico. Discard any card, reveal top card of your deck, salvage a level X or lower. X is equal to the card that you reveal. Ricos are the best costless filter, and Bougerod's caught on to this. They've become increasingly higher and higher rarity, especially in the new Sal deck. There's one that's a double rare. This effect is really, really good for consistency. If you have good 0s and good level 1s that you want to occur, we have a lot of level 1s in this deck, so the chance that we hit a level 1 or higher on this Rico is much higher than other decks. We have a chance to recur those cards for free, as well as being a ditch outlet if we flood climaxes or cards we don't want, higher level cards. 1 of the Woody Climax swap is an on-play check to rearrange Climax swap. Pretty standard profile. This has been a lot of different sets. The top 2 rearrange is very nice, can be combined with other effects, as well as giving you trigger knowledge going into your attacks and things of that nature. Very useful utility profile. And then this one is an awesome utility card, this Luca card here. On play, you can pay 1, ditch 1, check X, where X is equal to the number of PIXAR cards in your field. You can add any card, so it's like a super Cosima later in the game to rip into your climax. Remember, Buzz and Woody do not cantrip, so you have to get into your climax or a climax to switch into the right one. You need a little bit of extra dig. This has that, as well as being an on-play pay-to-free fresh. So 2 really nice edge case utility effects on 1 card, which makes this really good. It really earns its 1 of slot. So before we move on to level 1s, I want to talk about this nice little play here. PIXAR, again, like I said, without the Woody that we're not playing or the Lightning McQueen, you really struggle to kill things at level 0, but you know, that really doesn't matter because you have these like insane ways to like go +2, even with just the Dory Ricky, just playing it. You play it, you pay 1 clock yourself, salvage, and then on death, pay 1 clock yourself, salvage again. Get yourself to level 1 so you're not playing level 0 for too long. However, if you are at an extended level 0, you can do this really cool play with the Onward Gang cards. So if you go second or on your second turn at level 0, you slam these 2 cards down, use the Dory's Clock plus effects if you can. If you can't, doesn't really matter, you're still going to go +2. You can use the Onward effect to sack the Dory Ricky and then use the Dory Ricky at that point. So there you go +2 because the card salvages, and then this card cuts itself to the back row, and then on the following turn you can pay 1, pop that, get a 4-card mill, which digs you into your event, which is good for this so that our wallies are online, as well as, you know, giving you an additional plus. So you can go +3 or +2 with this little package here, and if your opponent opens a center runner, as a lot of decks do, you can lock it down with the Onward Gang, get 2 directs, and then go +3. It's pretty gross. I just wanted to note this little play because it's always like, what are you doing when you do it and your opponent looks at it? It's pretty funny because you just like rip a bunch of hand out of nowhere in the early game. Pretty hilarious. Moving into the level 1s, we have the Flick, the Bug's Life combo. When your climax is placed, choose any of your characters, give it 1500 power. When this attacks, if you have the bar, choose, as long as you have another character, choose any of your characters and it gets bounce back. So you can pump up your Wallies, pump up this card, or bounce this card back, or bounce your Wallies back. More often than not, you are bouncing a Wally. You're going to pump one up, and then you're going to give the other one bounce, and you're going to recur that way. What you really want to do is have your board be like Flick, Wally, Wally, and just jam them into your opponent's face every single turn. Even if you have to side with this cards, the Wallies are going to swing for a bunch of power, and then swing for 2-3 soul, 3 soul with climax down, 2 without. So you're going to be pushing a lot of soul damage. You might be able to set up sides, so you're going to be able to get that bounce back. Even if this card is no longer on the board, you give another one of your characters that ability, so it really doesn't matter. It has really good synergy with the Wally, and I'm going to talk about that Wally right now. So Wally is Action Bastard. Action Bastard is an infamous card. It is a 1/0 with 2 souls, 7500 with a drawback based on the can't attack if there are a certain number of cards in your clock or something like that. But this one doesn't have that drawback. Instead, it has a condition. So you have to have this 1/0 Eve on the field, which is a really good back row card. We're going to get into that in a second. And you have to have this 1/1 event in your memory. The 1/1 event is pretty good. It's a salvage event that has a chance to refund itself. But again, we do have to find that card in the early game. That's why we're playing the Onwards, the Onward Gang card and things like that. You really need to get into one of this event for your first level 1 turn, which is why we're going to be playing 4 of that and only playing 3 of this because, you know, this package is kind of bloated. We have to hit these cards, but, you know, we're trying to shore up our other parts. You can even maybe run 4 Wallies and 3 Flicks if you really wanted to be spicy. You really want to go all in on the Wally. Is something you could do, but, you know, but as long as you have that event memory and the Eve on the field, this gets 3000 power and +1 soul. So it's a 7500 2 soul beater. That sounds like boring and unassuming, but what you have to understand is without climax, 1k1 decks, you know, they're relegated to like 1/1/1 plus trigger every turn. The fact that you are getting costless 2 soul beaters starting at level 1, you're just going to slam these into your opponent's face every single turn because it's so cheap for you to continue putting Wallies on the board, slamming them into your opponent's face, dealing 2, 3, 4 damage on triggers and stuff like that. Deck is really, really gross. Like I said, this is like a big, thick club, and you're just like beating up your opponent with it. It's not like a lot of finesse. It's not a lot of like technique. It's just a big, thick club, and you're just smacking your opponent with it, and that's what Wally does. It's really funny. It's also really effective. But we'll get into the cooler parts of the package, which is this Eve. So again, that's going to be a 1/0 7500 2 soul beater cross turn. And what the Eve does is when you play a climax, again, we're playing bar, we're trying to recur this with the Flick, you choose one of your characters and give it 2k cross turn. So that's going to make your Wally 9500 at level 1 cross turn as a costless 2 soul beater, which means that you might not even have to replace it or pop it back, because your opponent might not even be able to clear it. Especially if, like, you know, you swing in big and like they cancel and you're going to go for a combo turn the next turn. They might be stuck at level 1 and be unable to clear the card. And it also has Act Resist. You can give one of your characters clock removal, so you can hard remove sticky cards that have Encore all throughout the game, which is a really good disruption effect. Disrupts hand Encore. Again, the wallies get really big, so if your opponent has like 1/1 standby targets with hand Encore, you can get them off the board, because you can just slam them down over and over and over. Eventually you'll kill them. Eventually they'll run out of backups, because it's easier for you to slam more wallies and keep slamming climaxes than it is for your opponent to get a board back out. Other level 1s, we're going to run 2 of this Inside Out Stalker. So whenever we use an act ability, remember, back on this Eve, this is a costless act to trip this on reverse blind stock, just to give us a little bit of extra stock to play with so that we can resolve extra events. You know, we're tapping down brainstorms every turn, just trying to rip cards back, trying to recur cards, playing more events and things like that, just slam more wallies. This is a good support card, as well as being an additional level 1, upping our level 1 counts for our Rico and stuff like that, as well as splashing more yellow. Yellow's a little bit hard to fix for, even though like your intent is only really play the Buzz and Woody. The yellow packages are either very bloated and you have to run all the cards, or like there are very few individually good yellow cards. This is one of them and has good synergy with our deck, so we're going to play 2 of it. We're also going to play one of the Adachi. You know, sometimes we got to just get rid of our opponent's stuff. You got to get stuff off the board. It's a stock Adachi. Also has a soul trigger. Extra soul triggers for our choice is always nice, because our soul trigger count in this deck is pretty low. So any extra soul trigger we can add that can give us a little bit extra utility is very welcome. Here's the Wally event. We got to have one of these in memory by the time we hit level 1. So we're going to have to find one early. That's why we're playing 4. Basically, when you play this event, choose one PIXAR character in your waiting room, add it to your hand, send this to memory, reveal the top card of your deck. If that's a level 2 or higher card, you send that card that you revealed to stock. That third part of this event will almost never hit in this deck, because we only have, you know, what is it, 9 level 3s? Yeah, 9 level 3s overall. So we're not going to hit on that very often. When we do, it's nice, but the payoff for, you know, being able to slam these wallies over and over and over again just into our opponent's chin is a reason enough to play this card, as well as, you know, giving us a little bit of selection. This can help us get into our finishers and stuff like that, or our early plays, or something that we need to play in the later game. It can be a very useful utility card to just have extra of. So we're playing 4 to make sure we see it early, and then as the game goes on, pretty useful. Either grabs back wallies to recur, or grabs our finishers for later turns. The finisher, Buzz and Woody. Everybody knows this card by now. A lot of people hate this card. If all of your characters are PIXAR, this card is an 11k, so basically if you're playing the game, it's 11k. On play, you heal. At the end of this card's attack, if you have the choice and you have 2 or more other characters, you can pay 1 and discard a character, which is laughably cheap cost. If you do, your opponent reveals the top 6 cards of their deck. If they have less than 6, they're going to only reveal those cards that are left in their deck. It does not go over refresh, because revealed cards do not technically leave the deck, so keep that in mind. And then you send X cards to the top of their clock. X is equal to the number of climaxes that you reveal in those top 6 cards. That is uncancelable damage. Your opponent cannot cancel that damage. If you, after you shuffle your opponent's deck, after they reveal 2-3 climax, something like that, and climaxes happen to go into their clock, they're stuck there. Especially if they're already at level 3. Even if they get another level 3 turn, they might have climaxes like buried in their clock or something like that. This combo's stupid. This effect previously on Drago Buster was like pay 5. Even with the climax combo, it was pay 2. It's just gross that this is this cheap. Pay 1, discard a PIXAR. Yes, there are times where all this card does is shuffle your opponent's deck 3 times, and that sucks. But what is great about this card, if you go and look at the damage charts, which you can find in Discord, as well as in other community resources, I think Kevin has them linked, but you can find them in both Discords. They're pinned. This is almost compression agnostic damage. And what do I mean by that? So yes, obviously if your opponent is highly compressed, this is more likely to hit more climaxes. However, if you look at the damage curve in terms of how much damage this card is expected to do, it's actually like flat downwards. Because yeah, like, you know, your opponent has less climaxes, is going to hit less often, right? But technically it doesn't actually matter, because what this kind of combo hates on is the ordering of your opponent's deck. And not that we've seen yet, there's nothing your opponent can do to affect the order ordering of their deck. And that's why you hear people, myself included, complain about stuff like Sakura. After the first Sakura, the Sakuras are freaking random, and they might just yeet you. You can't control the ordering of your deck. You can control your compression, but you can't control the order. Cards like this hate on the random ordering of your deck. Therefore, if your opponent has climaxes, you do this effect, and if you hit, you just get the damage. Like, it just does that flat damage based on if you hit, and then it shovels back, and you could hit again. Even if your opponent has like 2 climaxes in a 10-card deck, you could like reveal 6, C2, clock 2 non-climaxes, swing in, your attack sticks, and then like your opponent has like a 3-card deck with 2 climaxes in it, and then like go again and kick another 2. These are like really frustrating to play against, but they are very effective. And you're the one playing PIXAR, so you don't care. But yeah, these finishers are really gross. They don't have like as much push as like people might say or complain about, because you're only going to remember the high-end stuff, right? Confirmation bias, you only remember when things go off and when things are super crazy, not when things are more muted and normal. But this combo is still pretty damn good. Moving into supplemental level 3s, we have 3 of the early play. It's a 4 or more healer. The stock healer, ditch 1, heal a top card, or collect a stock. For each of your opponent's back row characters, this gets 1,000 power, so hopefully this is a 10-5. If your opponent's having a bad game or they're like trying to play around you, maybe it's a 9-5. Still a good early play. It's just here to extend our level 2 so we can continue to slam wallies into our opponent's face. Just more 2 soul beaters into them until they are ready to die to Buzz and Woody. To supplement Buzz and Woody, we have the Incredibles. On play, you reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a PIXAR character or an event, so as long as there's a non-climax in this deck, you burn 1. And then on attack, you can discard 2 to burn another 1. So this is kind of like a stock costless after it is played, like burn 1, which is pretty nasty. It helps Buzz and Woody chip out games. Unassuming sort of combination of effects, but if you just think about it as like, this is like a stock costless burn 1, pretty good as an off finisher. Again, that little bit of extra chip really helps Buzz and Woody get there, because like they don't have incredibly explosive damage. They just have like consistent damage all the way down the curve. You can like always consistently expect what kind of damage Buzz and Woody is going to output. Theoretically, obviously, again, they can reveal 6 and there's no climaxes and you shuffle your opponent's deck and you did nothing, but that's the low end. The normal end is you can predict it so that you have that little burn 1, you can chip out the game, make it more favorable for you to swing on those good numbers and not be swinging for more than you have to, and just close out those games. We are bar choice, really good 1k1 climax lineup. Bar to keep up our early aggression and make sure we have our climax. Choice to give us extra stock to do whatever we want, or extra hand depending on the situation we are in. We do not have a lot of targets for choice in this deck. However, we are mostly playing the choice for the Buzz and Woody combo because the Buzz and Woody combo is dumb. So yeah, like I said, the idea of this deck is it is a big, thick club, and you just bash it over and over into your opponent's face. You manage your deck state if you can, as you can. You're still playing good white shorts and stuff like that, but this is not like a very difficult or like technical or insane kind of deck. It's just raw power, action bastard into opponent's face, play the climax, pop the action bastard back, do it again, do it again, do it again. You can actually dump a lot of power into Wally. Wally can hit some pretty crazy power numbers if you have multiple clicks. You can do stuff like play 2 Eves. You can have an Eve in the front row because she doesn't have to tap down for her first effect. You can get Wally to some pretty crazy numbers, and then you have things like the Stalker to give you extra stock to like go for more brainstorms, or maybe even Ricky in the later game, stuff like that. This is an aggressive deck. You're just bashing it into your opponent's face, and just until like get to a point where like 3-0, 3 to like 3-2, you play down your Bloods and Woodies and you just go. And if your opponent reveals 6 clean, nothing happens, well, that's White Schwartz. Sometimes that's how it goes. But other than that, pretty consistent, aggressive, dumb deck. But it's really funny. Wally's a hell of a card. Action Bastard is still pretty good. Last slide, I'm not going to go over it because it's the holiday. You guys know everything here. Discord, Facebook, Weiss Fight. If you want to try out this deck, definitely give that a look. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And we'll see you guys in the next one.